total meltdown on live TV. Putin's war turns into a disaster. Ukrainian fighters eliminated 30 occupiers in Dobropillia direction. The Ukrainian Defense Forces continue to kill enemy personnel in the Dobropillia direction of the Donetsk region. Drone footage shows at least 36 dead occupiers scattered across open terrain. A video that perfectly captures the atmosphere of a true kill zone for Russian assault troops, who are being sent in groups and alone to certain death under Ukrainian drones. Recently, Russian army resumes mechanized new attacks. Russian troops conduct mechanized attacks mainly in rainy and foggy weather, which makes it difficult for the defense forces of Ukraine to use unmanned aerial vehicles over the past 2 weeks. Russian troops have conducted 3 mechanized attacks with company or battalion forces in priority areas of the Donetsk region, which indicates changes in the use of armored vehicles by Russia. This is what the American Institute for the Study of War, ISW, wrote in its report. Analysts recall that in 2025, Russian troops generally did not conduct intensive mechanized attacks. Instead, they used small infantry groups to penetrate and slowly advance along the entire front line. It's noted that the last major mechanized assault was registered in April of this year in the western part of Zaporizhia region. In recent weeks, the mechanized assaults that the Russians are conducting in the areas of Kosanivka and Drozhivka and Dobropillia in Donetsk region have increased. Thus, on October 6, the Russian army conducted an intensive mechanized assault near Pankovka, east of Dobropillia, during which the Ukrainian armed forces damaged and destroyed 4 tanks and 8 armored vehicles of the Russian forces. ISW, citing Ukrainian sources, claims that Russian troops used 35 tanks and armored vehicles, as well as an unknown number of motorcycles, with Ukrainian troops damaging and destroying 3 tanks, 16 armored vehicles, and 41 motorcycles. Furthermore, analysts recall that on October 13, the 1st Corps of the National Guard of Ukraine, Azov, reported that the Russians had launched an intensified mechanized assault in the direction of Dobropillia, attacking with 16 units of heavy armored vehicles, as well as an unknown number of motorcycles. The unit reported that 13 units of Russian armored vehicles, 3 tanks, and 3 motorcycles were destroyed. Another evidence of the use of armored vehicles by the Russians is a statement of a Ukrainian officer on October 13. According to him, units of the 5th Motorized Rifle Brigade and the 155th Marine Brigade Pacific Fleet are participating in mechanized attacks in the Donetsk region. According to ISW assessment, Russian troops conduct mechanized attacks mainly in rainy and foggy weather, which makes it difficult for the defense forces of Ukraine to use unmanned aerial vehicles. Suitable weather conditions were present on the days when the Russians carried out the aforementioned mechanized attacks, October 6, 9, and 13. Meanwhile, Russia losing troops 5 times faster than Ukraine despite manpower gap. Russia's major summer offensive in Ukraine failed to deliver the territorial gains the Kremlin hoped for, despite record numbers of mobilized troops and months of sustained assaults. Territorial advances remain minimal, while losses are enormous. The Economist reported on October 17. The outlet noted that while Western observers often focus on Ukraine's manpower shortages, a more pressing fact is how little territory Russia has gained at the cost of tens of thousands of lives. Based on estimates from nearly 200 sources, ranging from Western governments to independent analysts, Russia's cumulative losses since the full-scale invasion began stood at 640,000 to 877,000 personnel as of January 2025, including between 137,000 and 228,000 killed. Moreover, a sudden collapse of Ukraine's defensive lines is unlikely, given how the two armies fight. Constant drone surveillance combined with long-range precision weaponry has made massing forces near the front suicidal. But despite the casualties and damage to Russia's economy, Russian President Vladimir Putin has shown no sign of agreeing to a ceasefire or negotiations with Ukraine. More than 1,300 days since the full-scale Russian invasion began. As one expert puts it, Ukraine cannot destroy Russia's war capacity, while Russia appears unable to militarily defeat Ukraine. Despite the scale of Russian operations, its territorial gains remain marginal. At the current pace, it would take Russia at least 5 more years until summer of 2030 to fully seize the occupied parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia oblasts. Taking over all of Ukraine, The Economist calculated, would require another 103 years. Overall, the latest developments on the battlefield underscore a grim reality for Russia. Despite intensified mechanized assaults and the deployment of vast military resources, tangible territorial gains remain negligible. Ukrainian forces continue to inflict heavy losses, effectively leveraging drone warfare and precision strikes to repel assaults even under challenging weather conditions. The high cost in Russian lives and equipment, paired with minimal strategic advances, paints a picture of a faltering campaign. More than 1,300 days into the full-scale invasion, Russia's war effort is not only stalled but bleeding at an unsustainable rate, with troop losses outpacing Ukraine's by a factor of 5 and no clear path to victory. The war is becoming increasingly defined by senseless attrition rather than progress. Yet, President Putin remains unwilling to negotiate, prolonging a conflict that now shows every sign of becoming a long, grinding failure.